This course focuses around the central theme of religion, or more specifically, what is religion and how should we view it within the context of anthropology. Some of the main aspects people associate when they think of religion are spiritual beings, beliefs, rituals, symbols, and power. All of these traits are seen, for instance, in the case of early anthropologists theorizing about religion. Durkheim, Tyler, Weber, and Geertz all have their own definitions for religion, Azande being an exception in more recent conceptualizations. So what does this mean for practices that fit both within and beyond these constraints? What does this mean for witchcraft? Witchcraft is considered by many of these famous thinkers to take place beyond the realm of religion. Durkheim discusses witchcraft most in depth of the theorists discussing class, and classifies it within the realm of the profane. He differentiates magic to be separate from religion, despite many similarities, such as rituals, practices, ceremonies, and more. This is primarily because of the lack of a moral community, and as he describes it, there is no church of magic. In Durkheim's view, witchcraft could easily fall into that realm of magic, and argue it must be studied separately. Durkheim, however, studies religion from an ethnocentric standpoint of European and Western culture, and uses Christianity as a central reference point. This is profoundly evident in even his discussion of the Church of Magic, in which he holds the Church at the central point of religion. By taking this ethnocentric viewpoint, Durkheim closes himself off to other interpretations of religion, as well as creating an exclusivity and hierarchical relationship to what is important. He understands religion as sacred and highly influential, yet largely discards witchcraft. Yet, witchcraft is an important social force that has important and real effects on people's lives. Witchcraft, although it may not be considered a part of religion by influential theorists, is a large part of the social fabric for communities that practice and circulate it. It both affects and is affected by social relationships, genealogy, and language. It is also contextual, and an ethnocentric idea of a universal witchcraft, based off of Western ideas about witchcraft, overlooks the contextual complexities of the specific lived experiences of different localities. In Evans-Pritchard's ethnography of witchcraft among the Azande, witchcraft arises during times of misfortune, as it is a response to certain situations and not an intricate intellectual concept. This contrasts with Europe's understanding of witchcraft during the time of its height in the 1690s, in which a constant presence of witchcraft was felt and a very different participation and role of guilt took place. Favret-Saada, who studied witchcraft in Bocage among French peasants, found that witchcraft was focused primarily around language and the social production and realities that are formed by these utterances. The experience of witchcraft for the people in Bocage is incredibly intimate, as participants take on the roles of being caught as either bewitched or an unwitcher. In both these cases, witchcraft has a real effect on the lives of those involved, and is important in the social fabric of these locales. To disregard this as unimportant in the study of religion, as done by theorists such as Durkheim, would be a mistake, based around ethnocentrism, something anthropology as a discipline is trying so hard to detangle itself from. The readings for this week all centrally discuss the importance of taking into consideration the social structures that surround the concepts of witchcraft and magic. This is because the economic, social, and political situations surrounding a nation or people are unique and understood contextually by people, thus shaping their understanding of what witchcraft is or isn't, as well as their own relationship to it. Evans-Pritchard understood witchcraft and magic among the Azande as one of kinship relations and misfortunes, in that witches and magic only become part of the local discourse when kinship relations among individuals are tumultuous. Witchcraft for the Azande people arises during time of misfortune, like the loss of a job or troubles in marriage, and they will often place the blame on people that they had animosity with. As mentioned by Evans-Pritchard, when a man or one of his family or kin is sick, he is very annoyed. To understand his feelings but the moral responsibility of the man whose name the oracle discloses as responsible for the sickness, it must be recollected that he places before it the names of those people whom he dislikes most, so that the witch is likely to be someone with whom he has been for some time on bad terms. Old animosity is reinforced by new resentment. It is therefore the animosity between social relations that lead people towards a magic, oracle, and witchcraft discourse to make sense of their current situation. If someone is accused of witchcraft, they are expected to recite a ritual saying, "If I possess witchcraft in my belly, I am unaware of it. May it cool. It is thus that I blow out water. This saying creates a relationship between the accused and witchcraft in which they accept the grievances of the accuser and simply follow the formality that the social structure calls for. As such, the understanding of witchcraft among the Azande is one of acceptance due to the social structure that normalizes witches, witchcraft, and magic. Additionally, in this way, witchcraft becomes a helpful tool during times of misfortune. The second reading for this week, Moore & Sanders' Introduction and Magical Interpretations, Material Realities, Modernity, Witchcraft, and the Occult in Postcolonial Africa, argues that witchcraft refers to the understanding that people give to situations of misfortunes. However, the relationship people have with the occult shifts across different contexts. As such, witchcraft becomes a dynamic force, interacting and reacting with the modern world through globalization and violent capitalism. Consider the example used by Moore and Sanders regarding the use of words like cannibalism, headhunting, and zombies, concepts that relate to the occult and witchcraft. For example, the use of the term cannibalism became a way for people to come to terms with the notion that they were being victimized by the violent capitalist system that continuously extracts their cheap labor while they suffer from horrible working conditions. People essentially turn to the occult as it, quote, explains the inexplainable. It allows people to reformulate concepts like capitalism and globalization within their own social structure in order to find their own explanation for it, and as both authors state, contemporary witchcraft, occult practices, magics, and enchantments are neither a return to traditional practices nor a sign of backwardness or lack of progress. They are instead thoroughly modern manifestations of uncertainties, moral disquiet, and unequal rewards and aspirations in the contemporary moment. Like religion, witchcraft is very different depending on context. This is seen in the third reading, Favret-Saada's Between Caught and Catching. She analyzed witchcraft in Bocage, which followed different social structure than the Azande, and as such, had different conceptions of witchcraft and a different relationship with it. For the peasants in Bocage to talk about witchcraft, or of being bewitched, is to be breaking the norms of society that place institutions like the church or medicine as holding the only true knowledge. If people in Bocage talked about witchcraft, it only happened with others who were bewitched, or an unwitcher, as only they could understand what it meant to be bewitched. As such, witchcraft discourse, or even magic discourse, was largely ignored in the public setting, and only prominent in private ones, as the social structure limited the discourse. As Favret-Saada reminds us, witchcraft, remember, is not the only language available to account for misfortune. Unlike Azande, who in all circumstances only has the choice between witchcraft and sorcery, two concepts which in the Bocage are totally indistinguishable, the countryman knows perfectly well that there are explanations of another kind. This quote shows why it's important to consider that religion is different across different environments. Not everyone has the same words to describe misfortune. People use witchcraft, the occult, ghosts, the devil. It is an ever-changing concept. The importance of all three readings are that they discuss the very rationality of witchcraft and magic among the different social structures that they belong to. They discuss how the meaning of witchcraft is fluid among different environments and therefore understood differently within different social structures of people. They further introduce the notion that to think of witchcraft and sorcery as belonging simply to African culture is to ignore the fact that the concept of witchcraft is fluid, in the sense that the environment, culture, and modernity that surround beliefs, practices, and rituals are different across various environments. Ultimately, there is no one way of doing religion. One can easily interchange the word witchcraft with Catholicism, Christianity, Hinduism, etc., as they all hold beliefs, traditions, and rituals that allow an individual to make sense of the world. For instance, as easily as a Christian can ask God for guidance or look to the devil as causing misfortune in one's life, is the same as a believer looking to witchcraft and magic to explain the unexplainable. As such, witchcraft and magic are no less rational than any other religion, as they help people explain the unknown. As mentioned previously, thinkers like Durkheim seem to think that religion couldn't be practiced outside of the church, or that witchcraft couldn't be labeled as being part of religion. Anthropologists studying it in the past also saw witchcraft only as being an African tradition. However, anthropologists like Evans-Pritchard, Moore and Sanders, and Favret-Saada prove that witchcraft is very much part of religion, and it's something that shifts within different localities and times. Consider Wicca, originating in the United Kingdom. It was introduced by Gerard Gardner in 1954 and is part of the neo-pagan religion in which traditions, beliefs, practices, theologies, and rituals vary depending on the person or groups of people. There isn't one central book, leader, or ideals that govern Wicca. It's really up to interpretation. Although they all have the same belief in a god and goddess who manifest themselves in different deities. The goddess identifies with the earth, while the god is identified with the sun. Wicca is just another example of how different witchcraft and magic can be, depending on the perspectives of people, their understanding of the world, and their relationship to a greater power. Whether it's goddesses, gods, ancestors, saints, or death, it's about the relationship that one has with their beliefs. It's also important to note that just because people believe in witchcraft, it doesn't make them backwards or ignorant. Witchcraft is very much a part of the modern world, as it provides people with real answers. Religion is about the relationship that one creates with something overall, and to disregard this is what's really backwards.